I never imagined that a single month could reshape every belief I had about love, trust, and the future I thought I was building with someone. Sometimes I replay the moment when everything started to crumble, trying to find a sign I missed, a warning I should have seen. But the truth is, there was nothing, at least nothing loud enough to prepare me for what came next. If heartbreak had a face, mine would have been staring back at me in the mirror that first morning I realized he was gone. I still remember the last night we spent together. There was nothing extraordinary about it, nothing that hinted at the storm that was about to hit. We watched a show, argued playfully about whether pineapple belongs on pizza, then curled up together like we always did. He kissed my forehead before falling asleep, like he'd done every night we'd been together. And I held on to that memory for weeks, because it didn't match the man who disappeared the next morning without a word. It started small. A missed good morning text. Then a missed call. Then no response to mine. At first, I thought he was busy at work or maybe he forgot his charger again. He was terrible at keeping track of his things. I waited, checking my phone every few minutes, trying to convince myself nothing was wrong. But as the hours turned into half a day, and then into a full day, my chest tightened with a feeling I couldn't explain. Something wasn't right. I tried calling him. 1 ring. 2 rings. Straight to voicemail. I texted him again, telling myself not to panic, that he was probably stressed or overwhelmed. He'd been distant recently, but I chalked that up to life. Everyone goes through phases. But by the second day, when my calls stopped ringing altogether and my messages turned green, I knew what had happened. He had blocked me. My brain refused to accept it at first. Maybe there was a glitch. Maybe he dropped his phone. Maybe someone stole it. Maybe. The excuses were endless, because admitting the truth felt impossible. He had shut me out without warning, without explanation, without even the decency of a goodbye. I remember sitting on my couch, staring at my phone with trembling hands, whispering, no, that's not him. Because the man I knew, the man I loved, would never just vanish like that. Except he did. I wish I could say I handled it gracefully, but I didn't. I spiraled. I checked his social media every few hours, even though I knew he wasn't posting anything. I reread our old messages, looking for clues. I replayed conversations in my head, wondering if I'd said something wrong or pushed him away without realizing. That first week was agony. I barely slept. My thoughts raced non-stop. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face, smiling, laughing, looking at me like I meant something. How could someone who once held me like I was the safest place in the world suddenly treat me like I didn't exist? After a week of silence, I tried calling his brother. He didn't answer. That only fueled my confusion. I didn't want to seem crazy or dramatic, so I didn't try again. I just floated through days I barely remembered, feeling like my chest was full of shattered glass. And then, something happened that broke me in a way I didn't know was possible. I logged into Facebook, not because I expected anything, but because I was desperate for any sign he was alive, breathing, existing. I opened our chat, hoping the message bubble might magically turn blue again. But it was gone. He had deactivated our chat. And then I saw something else. His profile picture had changed. It wasn't just a picture of him. It was a picture of him with someone else. A girl. Smiling. Leaning into him like she belonged there. His arm wrapped tightly around her waist. My stomach dropped so fast I thought I might faint. For a second, I couldn't breathe. I clicked on it with shaking hands, staring at the image like it was a punch straight to the gut. I almost didn't recognize him. He looked distant. Not physically. Emotionally. Like he had already moved on long before I even realized something was wrong. I don't know how long I sat there, frozen, staring at the photo. My brain kept repeating the same question over and over. Why didn't he tell me? Why didn't he just say he met someone? Why didn't he end things? Why did he make me feel crazy, confused, discarded, when the truth was he had already replaced me? What haunted me wasn't just the betrayal, but the way he left me to figure it out through a profile picture. Through silence. Through disappearance. The pain was a physical thing. Sharp. Paralyzing. I told myself not to message him. Not to beg for answers. Not to appear desperate. But grief has a way of tearing down your pride. I typed and deleted 100 messages. I paced around my apartment, whispering to myself, don't reach out. Don't give him that power. But I was losing my mind. I needed to know why. I needed something, anything, that could help me make sense of it all. But he had blocked me everywhere. Phone. Facebook. Instagram. Even WhatsApp. I had become a ghost in his life overnight. The only thing left to do was cry, and I did. I cried in the shower. I cried on the floor of my kitchen. I cried while staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. wondering why I wasn't enough for him. Wondering what she had that I didn't. Those thoughts consumed me for weeks. But the universe wasn't done with me yet. Because just when I thought things couldn't get worse, just when I thought I'd hit rock bottom, my life shifted again, in a direction I wasn't prepared for. One morning, about a month after he disappeared, I woke up with a strange feeling. I was late. Not just a few days late, late enough that something inside me whispered that I should take a test. I sat on the edge of the tub holding that pregnancy test like it was a live wire. I watched the timer on my phone, my heart pounding so loudly I could hear it in my ears. When the second line appeared, I felt the world tilt beneath my feet. Positive. Pregnant. 5 weeks. I sat there in silence, staring at the tiny words on the stick, pregnant. My mind couldn't catch up with my body. My vision blurred. I felt like I was floating outside myself, watching a stranger crumble. I was pregnant. With the child of a man who abandoned me without a word. Who blocked me. Who replaced me. Who made it clear I meant nothing. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to tell. I didn't know if I should scream or cry or fall apart all over again. My hands were shaking as I grabbed my phone. Against all logic, against all self-respect, against every instinct inside me screaming not to. I messaged his brother. Not because I wanted drama. Not because I wanted attention. But because I was terrified and alone, and I genuinely believed he deserved to know. A part of me hoped his brother might help, might reach out to him, might convince him to at least speak to me. I didn't care about the relationship anymore. I cared about the truth. About responsibility. About the future growing inside me. His brother replied after a few minutes. Respectfully. Calmly. And he said something that shocked me. No, he's not married. The implication hit me like ice water. If he wasn't married, then who was the girl? Why had he left? Why had he abandoned everything we had without a single word? His brother said he would reach out to him. For a moment, I felt a flicker of hope. But that hope died the next morning when my phone buzzed with a notification. He had unblocked me. And his message was a knife to the heart. Sorry for ignoring you the last time, but honestly I want nothing to do with you or the baby that's supposedly mine. Supposedly. Like I was lying. Like my pregnancy was some manipulative trap. Like he didn't know exactly what we'd done, when we did it, and that he was the last man I'd been with. I stared at that message for a long time, my hands trembling, tears blurring the screen. The cruelty of it was almost unbearable. Not just the denial, but the audacity to accuse me of desperation. And then, as if the universe wanted to twist the knife deeper, another message popped up. This time, from her, the new girl. So what do you want? This has nothing to do with me. I don't want to tell you this, but you seem so desperate contacting his relative. If he wants to be with you, he will contact you. If ever that's his child, ask him if he will recognize the baby. I'm so sorry this has happened to you. I didn't know what hurt more, her condescending tone, or the fact that she acted like I was the problem. Like I was the villain in a story she didn't even know. Her pity felt like poison. Her words felt like mockery. And for the first time in this entire nightmare, I didn't cry. I felt something else. Something new. A spark, a tiny ember of anger. A part of me whispered, "No. This isn't how your story ends." I wish I could tell you that anger gave me strength immediately, that the second I felt it spark inside me, I stood up straighter, breathed easier, and finally saw my worth. But that's not how it happened. Anger doesn't erase heartbreak, it simply gives it a different temperature. Before, everything felt cold and hollow. After his messages, the coldness burned. That morning, after reading his words over and over again, I felt my heartbeat in my fingertips. My whole body hummed with a mix of shock, pain, humiliation, and something dangerously close to rage. But even then, I was too hurt to express it. I didn't respond. I couldn't. Not yet. I set my phone down and walked to the kitchen, trying to focus on breathing. In. Out. In. Out. Simple. Mechanical. Necessary. I felt like if I let myself fall apart again, I wouldn't be able to put myself back together this time. For hours, I walked circles around my apartment. My thoughts were loud, too loud. His words floated through my mind in a messy loop. I want nothing to do with you. The baby that's supposedly mine. Supposedly. It was unbelievable. He knew what we had done. He knew exactly when we were together. He knew the dates. He knew everything. And still, he chose to pretend like he didn't. It was cowardice. It was cruelty. It was easier for him to paint me as desperate than to face what he had done. And deep down, under all the pain, I knew it. I also knew this: I wasn't going to chase him anymore. Not after this. Not after being spoken to like I was some stranger trying to trap him. Not after he erased me, replaced me, and then humiliated me one more time for good measure. But deciding I wouldn't chase him didn't magically fix anything. I was still pregnant. I was still alone. I was still terrified. That night, I slept for the first time in what felt like days. Not because I felt better, but because exhaustion finally dragged me under. The kind of sleep that isn't restful, just an escape. The next morning, I woke up feeling different. Not stronger. Not healed. But clearer. Like the fog in my head had finally begun to lift just a little. I picked up my phone again. His messages were still there. Unread. Unanswered. And then I remembered the other message, the one from her. Her arrogance. Her condescending pity. The way she inserted herself like she was somehow above the situation. I reread it slowly. So what do you want? What did I want? Not him. Not anymore. What I wanted was clarity. Responsibility. Peace. But I didn't respond to her either. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me break. Instead, I wrote a message to his brother. He reached out. He denied everything. Thank you for trying. He replied a few hours later. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened with him. I really don't. I believed him. He had been respectful from the start, and there was a softness in his tone, like even he was disappointed in who his brother had become. But I didn't involve him further. It wasn't his job to fix this. It wasn't anyone's job but the man who ran away. The next few days felt heavy but calmer. Like the initial earthquake had passed, but the aftershocks were still rumbling. I tried to take it slow. I reminded myself that I wasn't just responsible for my emotions now, I was responsible for a life growing inside me. But the universe wasn't done testing me. By the end of the week, my phone buzzed again. It was him. I stared at his name on my screen, my heartbeat quickening. For a second, I wondered if maybe, he had come to his senses. But when I opened the message, the hope shattered instantly. Look, I don't know what you want me to say. I'm with someone else now. Move on. Move on. As if I hadn't been forced to move on the second he vanished. As if I hadn't spent a month grieving a relationship he had replaced long before I ever knew. I replied this time, not with desperation, but with clarity. I didn't message you to get you back. I messaged you because you have a responsibility. That's all. His response came back immediately, as if he had been waiting to attack. There is no responsibility. Don't contact me again. No responsibility. The words hit harder than I expected. He wasn't confused. He wasn't overwhelmed. He was choosing to deny everything. Choosing to act like nothing had happened. As if moving on was some switch I could flip, choosing to erase me all over again. I closed the chat and didn't respond. I didn't have the strength. Or maybe I finally understood that responding at all was pointless. I put my phone down and walked to the window, staring outside at people living their ordinary lives. Couples walking hand in hand. Parents pushing strollers. Friends laughing on their way somewhere. And I stood there, holding my stomach, wondering how my life had changed so dramatically without my consent. That evening, his girlfriend messaged me again. This time, it was longer. I wasn't sure if she wanted to provoke me or comfort me. Her tone was always somewhere in between, dripping with something that felt like false sympathy. I know you're hurt, but you need to accept reality. He loves me. Whatever you think you had with him is over. Stop involving his family. If the baby is his, he will do a DNA test. Until then, you're creating problems for no reason. I stared at the message for a long time. She had no idea what had happened between us. She didn't know the timing. She didn't know the conversations, the late nights, the plans we had discussed. She didn't know the way he looked at me just before he disappeared. She had stepped into a story already in motion and decided she understood everything. I didn't respond. I wasn't going to explain myself to someone who didn't care about the truth. But her words lingered. Accept reality. Reality was complicated. Reality was painful. But reality wasn't what she thought it was. He didn't love her. Not fully. You don't love someone while still entangled with someone else. You don't love someone while lying about the existence of entire chapters of your life. You don't love someone when your love depends on deleting your past. He wasn't committed. He was hiding. From me. From them. From himself. And deep down, I sensed it, his denial wasn't just about me or the baby. It was about facing the consequences of who he was becoming. A few days later, I went to my first prenatal appointment. Sitting in that cold, quiet room felt surreal. I answered questions with a distant voice, like I was speaking from underwater. The nurse was kind, but even her softness couldn't break through the numbness I felt. When the doctor confirmed the pregnancy, something shifted inside me. Hearing it from someone else somehow made it real in a new way. After the appointment, I sat in my car for a long time. The ultrasound wasn't clear yet, but even the little shadow on the screen felt like something monumental. Something worth protecting. Something that deserved better than the chaos it was born into. And for the first time since everything happened, I felt a small, fragile sense of purpose. A direction. A reason to try. The weeks that followed were a strange blend of pain and quiet resilience. I started eating better, not because I felt like it, but because I had to. I forced myself to sleep more. I cut down the scrolling, the obsessive checking, the self-inflicted torture. Every day, I felt a little stronger. Not healed. Not okay. But stronger. His silence continued, but it no longer crushed me the way it once did. It still hurt, of course it hurt, but I wasn't drowning in it anymore. One night, as I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, something occurred to me that should have been obvious from the beginning. I wasn't losing anything anymore. He had already left. The empty space he created wasn't mine to fill with questions. It was his reflection to face. All I had to do now was protect myself, and the future I carried. But life has a way of circling back. Just when I thought his chapter might finally be closed, something unexpected happened. Something that would mark the beginning of a shift, not in him, but in me. One evening, my phone buzzed with a message from someone I didn't expect at all. His mother. We had met only a few times. She was quiet, but warm in a distant sort of way. I never imagined she'd reach out now, especially when her son had made it painfully clear he wanted nothing to do with me. But her message was simple. I heard what happened. If you need anything, I'm here. I stared at the screen, stunned. Why would she reach out? Did she know everything? Had he told her? Had his brother told her? I didn't ask. I simply thanked her, unsure how much to reveal. Her next message came a moment later. I'm sorry for how he handled things. He wasn't raised that way. My chest ached. For the first time in weeks, tears stung my eyes, not from pain, but from the unexpected kindness of someone I barely knew. We spoke for a while. She didn't pry. She didn't blame me. She didn't defend him. She simply listened. And in her words, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Support. She didn't fix anything, but she made me realize something important, that his actions didn't reflect on me. They reflected on him. And that was the first moment I truly believed I might survive this. Because even if he chose denial, even if he chose abandonment, even if he chose someone else, I wasn't alone. I wasn't invisible. And I wasn't broken beyond repair. There's a strange thing that happens after you've cried every tear your body has, after every disappointment has hit you like a wave, after the person you loved has shattered every last illusion you held. You wake up one day and realize the world didn't end. You didn't disappear. You're still here. And so was I. That realization didn't come dramatically, it came quietly, on a morning like any other. I woke up, sat on the edge of my bed, and noticed something different in the stillness around me. My chest didn't feel as heavy. My thoughts weren't racing. I didn't immediately reach for my phone. I just breathed. And for the first time in months, the breath didn't hurt. I wasn't healed. I wasn't fully okay. But I was becoming something I didn't expect, resilient. I started taking care of myself, not out of obligation, but out of choice. I ate better. I took walks. I played soft music in the evenings. I got back to journaling. Slowly, almost reluctantly, I began reclaiming pieces of myself I hadn't realized I'd given away while loving him. And the more I focused on myself, the less space he took up in my mind. But life has a cruel sense of timing. Just as I started rebuilding, just as the cracks in me began to harden into something stronger, he reached out again. It happened on a Wednesday afternoon. I was making tea when my phone buzzed with a notification. I glanced at the screen expecting a message from a friend, but instead, I saw his name. My stomach dropped. For a moment, I wondered if I should ignore it. But curiosity, dangerous, familiar curiosity, pushed me to open it. His message was short. "We need to talk. We need to talk." The irony nearly made me laugh. He needed to talk. After vanishing without a word? After blocking me on everything? After denying responsibility? After humiliating me? After choosing someone else? Now, only now, he needed to talk. I didn't respond right away. I set my phone down and walked around my apartment, trying to collect myself. I didn't want to be pulled back into the emotional chaos I had finally begun escaping. A few minutes later, another message followed. "It's important." I sat on the couch and stared at the screen. Of course it was important, to him. Because everything was always on his terms. When he wanted to disappear, he did. When he wanted attention, he demanded it. When he wanted to rewrite the truth, he rewrote it. And when he needed something, suddenly communication mattered again. I typed slowly. "Say what you need to say here." His reply came fast, almost frantic. "Not like this. In person. In person." The audacity. I stared at the words until they blurred. This was the moment the old me would have caved. The me who loved him. The me who begged for answers. The me who searched for closure in the heart of the man who broke me. But I wasn't that person anymore. So I wrote. "No. Here, or not at all." He went silent for a full hour. Then. "I want a DNA test." There it was. The real reason. Not regret. Not guilt. Not some buried conscience. A test. A way to soothe his ego. A way to convince his new girlfriend he wasn't lying. A way to protect himself, not the baby, not me, not the truth. I should have been angry. But instead, I felt something unexpected. Relief. Because finally, he showed me exactly who he was without any mask left. "Fine," I replied. "After the baby is born." He didn't answer right away. Then, minutes later. "We should meet. We should meet." The words hung there like bait. But I wasn't hungry anymore. No. Everything goes through text from now on. I set my phone down. My hands were steady. My breath was steady. My heart was steady. That was the moment I realized something powerful. I no longer needed him. But he, finally, needed me. As the weeks went by, I kept expecting him to message again. Not because I wanted him to, but because his ego rarely let things go. And I was right. He began texting more frequently. Little things. Useless things. As if trying to worm his way back into my world. "How far along are you now? Do you need anything? Are you eating well?" And then. "I still care about you." That one made me laugh out loud. Care? Where was that care when he blocked me? Where was that care when he denied me? Where was that care when he humiliated me in messages? Where was that care when he replaced me overnight? He didn't care. He was afraid. Afraid of the truth. Afraid of responsibility. Afraid of looking like the man he really was. Still, I didn't block him. Not because I wanted him in my life, but because I wanted everything documented. Every denial. Every backpedal. Every sudden shift in tone. I wasn't naive anymore. And some battles require receipts. His girlfriend messaged me less often now. I suspected she finally saw the cracks in his story. Or maybe she was starting to realize that love built on lies eventually collapses. Either way, I didn't care. Their drama wasn't mine anymore. When the second trimester arrived, something inside me softened. I started feeling small flutters, tiny reminders that I wasn't alone. That despite the chaos, something beautiful was growing quietly inside me. I found myself talking to my belly sometimes. It wasn't planned. It just happened. I'd sit on the couch in the evenings and say things like, "You're not a mistake. You're wanted. You're loved. I'm doing my best." And every time I said those words, they healed something inside me too. Because a small part of me believed them, for myself. As my pregnancy progressed, his messages became more frequent. Almost daily. Sometimes guilty. Sometimes sweet. Sometimes cold. Sometimes desperate. But all of them were the same in one sense. None of them were for me. They were for him. For his conscience. For his pride. For his image. One night, after a series of awkward attempts on his part to check in, he suddenly wrote, "I miss you." I stared at my phone, expressionless. There was a time when those words would have broken me open. When I would have given anything to hear them. When they would have lit up hope inside my chest like a lantern. But now, they meant nothing. I typed a single sentence. "No, you don't." He replied instantly. "Yes, I do." I didn't respond. He sent another. "I made mistakes." Another. "I shouldn't have left like that." Another. I was confused. And finally. "Can we start over?" Start over. With the man who abandoned me. With the man who denied his own child. With the man who replaced me before the breakup even happened. With the man who humiliated me in messages. With the man who disappeared when I needed him most. No. No, we couldn't. But I didn't have to say it. My silence said enough. Months passed. I grew stronger. Calmer. More grounded. I prepared for the baby. I bought tiny clothes, blankets, bottles, a crib. I started imagining a future that didn't include him at all. And surprisingly, it didn't scare me. It felt peaceful. One evening, while assembling a stroller, I realized something profound. I wasn't rebuilding my old life. I was building a new one. One where I was enough. One where the baby was enough. One where love wasn't conditional, manipulative, or silent. And that was when I truly understood. The greatest revenge wasn't confrontation. It was healing. Healing loudly. Healing fully. Healing without needing him to witness it. As my due date approached, he messaged again. "Tell me when you go into labor." I didn't respond. Not because I wanted revenge. Because the delivery room was for support, love, safety, not for a man who had dragged me through emotional hell. And deep down, he knew it too. A week before my due date, his mother checked in. She wished me luck. Told me to stay strong. Told me she was thinking of me. Her kindness warmed me in a way her son never had. I realized then that even if he had failed me, the world hadn't. I wasn't as alone as I once believed. The day my baby was born was both the hardest and most beautiful day of my life. The pain was overwhelming, yet empowering. Every push felt like I was forcing myself into a new existence, one where everything that had broken me finally made sense. When I held that tiny body against my chest for the first time, a tidal wave of emotion swallowed me whole. Love. Protection. Relief. Awe. Purpose. Fear. Strength. I cried, not for him, not for the lost relationship, not for the past. I cried because for the first time in my life, I felt whole. My baby looked up at me with eyes still adjusting to the light, and I whispered, "It's just us now. And that's enough." After we were home, I sent him a message, short and factual. "The baby is here. When you're ready for the DNA test, let me know." Hours later, he responded, "Send me a picture." I didn't. He didn't deserve the intimacy of seeing something so pure, so innocent, so untouched by his choices. A week later, he asked again. And again, I said no. If he wanted proof, he could take a test. Not use my child as emotional currency. Not validate his ego through a photo. Not claim access he never earned. He finally agreed to schedule the DNA test. And when the results came back, predictably, undeniably positive, he didn't message me. Not for days. Then finally. I don't know what to say. I did. There's nothing left to say. He tried to respond, tried to explain, tried to backtrack, tried to soften, but I didn't reply, because this story wasn't about him anymore. It was about me, about my baby, about survival, about rebirth, about learning that sometimes the person you think you can't live without is the person you're better off without. Months later, as I rocked my baby to sleep one night, I realized something I wish I could tell the version of me who cried on the bathroom floor holding a pregnancy test: you didn't lose.